Mike. Thanks for coming in today. I appreciate your time. You've been really open lately about feeling stressed and anxious, and lately I've been skipping class a couple times. So I wanted to spend a little more time on that today and use something called the CBT Diamond, which is a part of the therapy that we've been doing to kind of help process what's going on. This is going to connect to your thoughts, emotions, and even the sensations you're having in your body and how you're acting because of that. Does that sound good?
Yeah, sure. I've been thinking a lot about it.
Yeah, it sounds like you've had a lot on your mind. But what I want to do is kind of hone in on the last time that you skipped class. Can you walk me through that moment? What was happening right before you decided not to go?
Well, it was yesterday. I woke up and I looked at the time and I realized I only had 30 minutes before class started.
Hmm.
Um, but I just couldn't make myself get up.
Okay, I'm hearing that you woke up kind of feeling like you didn't have enough time to get ready. You kind of realized class was really soon and you decided to stay in bed. So, and I'm also hearing a lot of kind of complicated thoughts. When you realized you had class that soon, what was going through your mind? What were you thinking?
I was thinking, what's the point? I haven't been to this class in so many days. I'm probably gonna fail it anyway, and I'm too far behind and I can't catch up, and I'm just gonna embarrass myself if I go.
Yeah, definitely a lot on your plate in that moment. What were you thinking about falling behind and embarrassing, yourself? What was going on with like how people might react? Were you thinking about how others might judge you?
Yeah, I kept thinking the professor would be annoyed, or the opposite, that he just wouldn't care, and that the other students would just look at me and think that I was a screw up, and it just feels like everyone's watching.
That's a lot of stress, I imagine, from kind of picturing how it might go, that hypothetical of what if, those what if scenarios. Um, how did you feel emotionally after those thoughts came up? What was going through your emotions? Were you feeling anxious at all?
I felt really anxious. Like I felt like my chest was really tight and my stomach felt weird, like it was like doing backflips. And I just felt defeated. Like, why even bother?
Yeah. So a lot of anxiety and some physical feelings because of that anxiety, feeling defeated, maybe expecting judgment and feeling like you might be a failure. That's some powerful stuff. Let's kind of focus on those body sensations that I heard. You mentioned that your chest was tight, your stomach was doing backflips, a lot going on. Was there anything else physically that you might have noticed?
Yeah, my heart was pounding and I was sweating a little, like my hands were really sweaty. And just thinking about going to class made me really shaky.
It is interesting how your body reacts in those moments, right? We kind of realize looking back, it kind of amplifies that feeling of anxiety. It kind of makes it worse. We're feeling anxiety and then our body decides to kind of freak out. It can be a really defeating feeling when you're expecting to perform in class and be a college student. And then when you decided to stay in bed and not go to class, you kind of had a pattern. That was what you decided on based on those feelings. Does that sound accurate?
Yes, exactly. I just thought it was easier to stay in my room than to go out and to go to class and just deal with all of that.
I appreciate you sharing that. I know there's a lot of coexisting feelings, a lot at the same time. And it seems like you might have a little bit of a pattern because of what we've talked about the past couple weeks. And the situation being that you're expected to go to class, you're expected to be a student, you're expected to complete the work, and then the thoughts that you're too far behind, feeling anxious and defeated. Do you feel like those feelings, does that sound right that you were kind of following that pattern of staying in bed, staying home?
Yeah, that's basically it.
Okay. What's important to note is that your thoughts are kind of driving this whole cycle. It seems like your thought processes, your expectations, maybe some negative thoughts are driving your actions, that you might fail, that you might be judged, that you're maybe even expected to perform too much for how you're feeling, feeling anxious and defeated. And what's tricky about skipping class is that it might reinforce those thoughts, right?
Yeah. Every time that I skip, it just makes it worse, and I feel like I get further and further behind.
I was gonna say it might feel like you're adding more to your plate by skipping. It might be a temporary relief that kind of gets that anxiety a break, but it also adds to the problem because it's confirming those negative thoughts. What do you think might happen if we worked on changing those first thoughts that you have?
I guess I'd maybe feel less anxious, or I'd at least try going to class instead of avoiding it.
Okay, so you're feeling that anxiety might decrease if we were to process that a little bit. Maybe we could reframe them. You might notice a shift in how you feel emotionally and physically. Hopefully, those symptoms like your chest beating out of your heart beating out of your chest tightening, might lead to different actions like going into class, feeling more confident as a student. And also, if it's a cycle, we can kind of disrupt that at the thought level where our brains are at, where we're thinking, and everything can start to change.
I guess that makes sense, but how do I even start? I feel like the thoughts just happen.
Yeah, like they might just appear. You might not be able to prevent them. It's a very common experience that they feel automatic. But what we can do is work on identifying and challenging them, even if they still happen before they take over your actions. For example, you could think, when I'm going to fail or when people judge me, those types of thoughts. We can ask, is there any actual evidence of that? Have people told you that? Or is it just you're maybe making an assumption?
I don't know. I mean, I guess I don't know what people think of me.
Exactly. It's hard to know when we're walking into a situation where people are falling if we can't put ourselves in their shoes. That's one way
Mhm.
to start challenging those thoughts. We can also look for evidence to the contrary, maybe times when you have gone to class and things were fine, or maybe you've gone through something even if you felt uncomfortable or anxious, kind of conquering that. And then by doing that, we start to weaken the power of those automatic thoughts.
I think I could definitely try that. It just feels really strong when it's happening, and it feels like I don't have control over it.
It sounds like it's hard in the moment when they kind of first come up. And I think that's why we could work on it together, maybe practice catching those thoughts and finding a way to shift them, doing some hypotheticals, some what if scenarios. And that way, the more you do it, the easier it'll get. Does that sound like something you're willing to try?
Yeah, I'll give it a try. I mean, I've got nothing to lose at this point.
I'm glad to hear that. I think what we're going to do is work on it together. I don't want you to feel like you're alone in this process at all. And then next time, we can also process ways to challenge specific thoughts you're having, whether it be a past situation or a hypothetical, and maybe look at some situations where you felt like you were in control.
Yeah, that sounds good. Thank you.
You're welcome. Have a great day. I feel like you've started kind of progressing. I don't want you to feel discouraged, and I'll see you next week to work on it more.